Hi, Glorious Cow here. I'm really excited to be able to give you all a demo of an actual light pen made for the IBM PC, like the actual CGA light pen header. I did an unboxing in a previous video. If you want to see the actual gubbins and how it connects, you can check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Today I have collected a few software titles that support the light pen, so I can give you a little roundup of the few options you had available to you at the time. It's not a lot. The light pen was pretty much dead on arrival on the PC, probably due to IBM not shipping an official light pen accessory, and the fact that for the first 2 years you only had the IBM 5151 monitor, which didn't support the light pen at all. The CGA compatible light pen has been something like a mythical creature. A lot of dedicated PC retro hobbyists and collectors very well may never have even seen one. Well, here one is. This is the Warp Speed light pen. It was sold and marketed in Tandy catalogs for about 8 years, and it retailed for $200, if you believe that. Now I have this connected to my Tandy 1000 through a custom-made adapter. The only reason I'm using the Tandy 1000 is because my 5150 is having a bit of an issue with the first 16K of memory, and that just causes it to halt during post. In any case, I'm lucky enough to have the driver disk, so the first thing I'm going to do is load the light pen driver. The light pen driver is going to replace function 4 of interrupt 10H, and this is usually something that needs to be done because most BIOS light pen routines are absolutely terrible, if not completely broken, and the Tandy's routines are no exception. The second thing we want to do is run the calibration utility, which is confusingly named install. Because the way the light pen works via a CRTC, when the pen detects light from the screen, it causes the CRTC chip to latch the memory address being emitted at that precise moment. But there are several character cycles between when an address is emitted and when that gets rasterized and turned into pixels. And we can see that in action right now. If I hold the light pen up to the screen, you can see this little asterisk moving around. And notice the pen can be about an inch away from the monitor and still track. And you can angle it up and down, which is kind of neat. Now notice the cursor can only go over text because it is a light pen. It does need light to detect. So in dark areas, the pen is pretty much useless. There is the button on the tip of the pen, so you see as I pressed it on the square, it was able to detect that. So this is the actual calibration routine. It's just a simple matter of pressing the tip of the pen against that character, box character in the middle of the screen. We want to be somewhat accurate when we do this. And now this is going to configure how many floppy drives we have. This is for the controller software, which was kind of a light pen enabled DOS shell. We'll see that in a second. So you can see I was able to navigate through those options fairly quickly. And for navigating menus, the light pen really isn't all that bad. This controller shell got some decent reviews in magazines of the time. I don't know if they had a newer version than I do, because this thing is a fairly buggy mess. This sprite option up here will turn on the live cursor, which I normally would want to do because it's cool, except it crashes after about 4 seconds. It does that on the IBM PC as well, and it does that under my emulator Marty PC, so I don't know what's going on with that. There is kind of a neat feature. So I just mentioned how the light pen needs something on the screen to be able to track. Well, if we press the switch against the screen, try not to do that too much if you're photosensitive. You can see it will flash the screen so that it has something to track. It's very shades of NES Zapper there. But the rest of it is kind of a mess. So we can change to drive A, and for example, we could try to type one of these basic programs. But you'll see the type function doesn't wait. It doesn't give you any time to read the thing. And that's actually off a real floppy drive, so it's not a matter of the Gotek just being too fast for its own good. So, in theory, if you manage to fix all these bugs, this might be a decent shell. I'd rather use Norton Commander personally. But I do have a more interesting demo, well, two of them, but the next one is a title that you may have already heard of. This is a fairly famous chess engine, Sargon, made by Dan and Kathy Spracklin. Now, I'm showing you Sargon III because it happens to be one of the very few video games, well, if you consider chess a video game, to support the light pen. In fact, it was one of the only titles, commercial or otherwise, to support the light pen. To enable the light pen, we need to go in the option menu by pressing the question mark. And there's a little bug, I don't know if it's related to the Tandy BIOS or not, but to avoid crashing the whole thing, we need to turn 80 column mode on before we turn the light pen on. When we hit escape, we'll see the little green box informs us that light pen mode is enabled. Next, we need to hit Control F10 to calibrate the light pen. Similar to the driver, the application also needs its own calibration. So we'll tap this little diamond. And now the light pen is actually usable. I don't know how to play chess. I was more of a Go player. I mean, I know how to move the horsey. So let's do that. This is pretty much an ideal application of the light pen. It's turn-based, and the hit areas are rather large, so the lack of accuracy isn't really that big of a problem. We can even enable graphics mode. If I go back and I change to 40 column color, and then I hit escape one more time, we've got a nice CGA chessboard. And the light pen also works in this mode. So I can move my pawn up here. This isn't hardly stockfish, but it would probably still whip me pretty good. Anyway, you don't need to see me lose to a chess computer from 1983, so I'm going to quit out of here for now. I was very lucky. Just before I was planning to film this video, I found what is perhaps the most impressive, complete, and feature-rich demo of the light pen ever made. And it was a program I had never heard of from a company I have never heard of. This is PC Illustrator version 3.0 by Computer Graphics Group Incorporated. Have you ever heard of them? I never have. To enable night pen mode, we need to first say that we're not going to use the Microsoft mouse. I mean, I don't have one connected anyway. What that's going to do is turn on cursor navigation, pretty typical at the time for mouse or menu-based programs when you didn't have a mouse. You can use the numeric keypad here to move around, and if you press like left and up and down and right, you get diagonal. In any case, it took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that to click on things using the numpad, you use the right Alt key. Now I was experimenting with this in my emulator, so Alt had nowhere near anything to do with the numpad, although on the Tandy keyboard it's right next to the numpad, funny enough. We'll go into devices here and wait for it to load. And we can see that we can select the light pen. It's even got a cute little picture of one. And we want to say yes, it's ready. Now notice something's going to happen here when we hit enter. The overscan or background color is going to turn blue. Because remember, the light pen needs something to track, something on the screen. So the light pen actually is most sensitive to the color blue. I kind of prefer the magenta and cyan palette, so let's switch. That looks a lot more CGA. Now, I don't know if it's a problem with the Tandy specifically or this particular driver, but unfortunately, what I believe is supposed to be freehand drawing mode, which does work in my emulator, doesn't work on the Tandy 1000. But there's still plenty I can demonstrate. If we go into lines, you can see that I can draw lines. It's pretty simple. You can see that the resolution is not great. Like if I try to connect two line segments, it's actually pretty difficult to get them to line up. So it's hardly a precise CAD application. But you know what? This would have been good enough to entertain me for hours as a kid. And I'm just tickled to find something that supports the light pen and simply isn't terrible. It's not entirely obvious, but these are two different options here. So like for circles, we have outline circles and filled circles. What you do for circles is you tap the center point and then you tap where the radius should be. It is a little bit annoying going in and out of the menu, but I'm really not sure how better to do it. It is kind of nice that all the tools are available, and then when you switch back, you have an uninterrupted screen to draw on. Obviously, if you were going to make this today, you'd have like some kind of pop-up context menu or something. One of the coolest features is the number of text features this thing has. It has a number of fonts. They're all vector based, long before TrueType was ever a thing. We even have Helvetica here. And look, we have 5 different italics, and we can do 45 degrees and vertical text, so that's kind of impressive. Now we changed the color with Alt or F1 through F4. So one of those colors is always going to be pointless because it's going to be the background color. And then it's Alt and F keys will change the font size, which we can make quite big. And it's neat because you can reposition the text anywhere you want, and then when you like how it looks and where it is, you can hit enter and enter in some more text. So that's kind of neat. Now, I hope to show you a demo next of using a light pen card. I have some light pen cards, including the original light pen card from FTG Data, the Pixel 350. Although I'll probably be using the Pixel 380 since the drivers for the 350 don't seem to exist. In theory, the LightPen card provide much higher resolution, and I'm hoping it'll fix the painting, the freehand painting function, so we could demonstrate that as well. I hope you've enjoyed this demo. I think this is probably the most comprehensive tour of actual LightPen functionality for a PC compatible system that has ever been recorded. I think the whole LightPen technology and story deserves a much more in-depth and much higher production value video than I'm capable of producing. But as I say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If this inspires someone else to tell the LightPen story, I'd be absolutely thrilled. Thanks for watching.